Welcome everyone. Thank you for taking the time today to join us for our 12th episode of STEM STEAM activities at home or in the classroom. Now I'm going to pass over to Josh, who will be our main presenter today.
Cool. Thanks, Jordan. You're pretty awesome. Thanks. I'm Josh from Brown Dog Gadgets, and I'm working on my project right now. So today we're going to cover some fun things. And at first, I want to make sure I mention that if you have any questions, please throw them in the comments. I have Pete over here to my left. He'll let me know if there's any questions in the comments so that we can answer them in real time. We just like when people have questions that we can answer right away and not ages later. Second off, be sure to check out all the fun stuff at Nasco Education. And if you want to chat with Jordan or look at all the materials you see here today, you can find those at these very helpful links, which Pete will be throwing up here. There we go. Actually, those are, yeah, you can talk to Nasco, follow them there. There we go, Nasco Education, nascoeducate.com. And you can email Jordan at Nasco Education. There we go. If you want to follow Nasco on social media, that's what these other guys are for. There we go. So we're going to cover some little more advanced stuff today, and we're actually going to be combining a kind of advanced thing with a very simple thing. So a lot of the projects we've shown off in our weekly webinar have been paper crafts using conductive tape for making kind of paper circuits. There we go. This is a bear we made, one of the presentations, I'm pretty sure, with Jordan here. Just a very simple paper circuits project that uses conductive tape and LEDs to make something kind of fun. Those are really easy, really handy ways of making all sorts of arts and crafts science projects, as well as doing circuitry on paper in a very kid-friendly format. However, most people tend to think of paper circuits as like ending right here. It's a couple of LEDs on a greeting card, which isn't true because you can do quite a few things. In one of our previous webinars, we connected transistors and little sensors onto a piece of paper to make a very simple light detecting circuit, kind of like an outdoor garden light. But we can take it one step further by bringing in such things as Arduinos and microbits into the mix and using those in a paper circuits environment, ditching your standard alligator clips, which are kind of lame. Alligator clips are fine. It's just they're not super kid friendly. They're wires, which is not cool. And we like to stick with tape because it's much more visually appealing, more kinesthetic, and great for kinesthetic and your visual learners. But they're just it's a really better format to be using with this kind of stuff. And you can again bring in some more advanced projects, but in a very child-friendly way. So we're going to show you how to use our crazy circuits parts, which are these guys, which don't hold up well on a green screen because they're also green. We're going to switch to the overhead camera right now. There we go. So these are our crazy circuits boards. We're going to try to use these guys with paper circuits. So Crazy Circuits is a kit that Nasco sells of ours. Basically, they're little circuit boards and other components that pop onto Lego, thus the Lego holes there. And we do typically use these with Lego for all sorts of stuff. Let me bring one over here. Here's an example of a Lego papery project. But you can also just use these directly with paper for paper circuits activities using a couple different methods. And we're going to go over those here. So first and foremost, let's show off this little guy right here I have, and probably the most simple method to connect things together. Yep, there we go. So this is a very simple project that Pete put together here really quickly before our webinar. We're just connecting our maker tape here, which is our nylon conductive tape. It's really nice, strong stuff. Beats the heck out of copper foil. Don't use copper foil. Our nylon tape is awesome. I think Pete has a graphic that explains how we feel about copper foil. There we go, no copper foil. And so there's a couple different ways of connecting it. This is 1/4 inch. I'm going to show first 1/4 inch, then show the 1/8 inch. So 1/4 inch, we can just lay it across the top here. We've got these nice little conductive pads on here, which aren't something that usually are on your little Arduinos or other boards. Usually you're supposed to plug in little pins or just really small parts in there, little wires, but kind of lame. But we can just lay the tape over the top of the Lego hole connections and make a solid electrical connection with the tape. So actually there's one here that wasn't quite working well in our initial demo. So I was just going to see if I could get this guy working again by just running tape up and over. And okay, there we go. Now my red's working just fine. It wasn't before. The 1/8 inch tape works pretty well. We just weren't having a great connection with that one. But it's just easy just to run your tape over that output, and now you can do paper switches. Right here is a very simple paper switch. It's a scrap of paper with tape running up and around, and we can just make a little tiny bend here. We have a whole bunch of different types of paper switches. We've shown a couple of these off in the webinars. These are all free templates and write-ups we have on how to make switches and buttons with paper or cardboard, like this big old knife switch, which we could use as well here to turn an LED on and off with a programmable board. That's just a really simple way of connecting components. And instead of having kids use a breadboard or alligator clips, they can lay out the circuit the way a real circuit board would be done on paper, or on Lego if you want to go the Lego route with our stuff. But this is a very simple way of doing this with paper circuits, because there's not really an easy way of getting out your standard parts onto there. Even with your, say, standard microbit like this guy here, you can run your tape up onto here, but you're kind of limited the number of pins you can use with a microbit. If you're not familiar with a microbit, it's another common programming platform that's been going out there for educational use. And our board that we use with this breaks out a whole bunch more of those pins, so we use a whole lot more outputs and inputs. So this is just a very easy way of doing this. This is a simple little push to light thing. We're using a program to tell it what to do, as opposed to, say, just making a easy analog circuit. So that's this guy right here, and that's just laying tape over the top is a really easy way to do it, either with the 1/8" tape or the 1/4" tape. And the 1/4" tape, actually, I recommend that for kids, just because it's a little bit bigger in general. As long as it's not overlapping with another copper pin spot, you're fine. Otherwise, you'll end up having a short circuit, just won't work. And if you mess up, the nice part is too, you can always peel this back off and rearrange it, reseat it. Not so much on paper, because paper is paper, but on the circuit board or any other hard surface, you can do that quite easily. Quite frankly, too, I've recommended to a teacher recently, if you're gonna be doing like paper circuit stuff on a table, this is really quick and short term. If you have a nice, smooth, kind of sciencey table or tabletop in general, physically use this tape and other components on the table itself. Put it on the table, because it'll peel off. You can throw it away when you're done. It won't leave any sticky residue. But doing it actually physically on the table is not a bad way of doing some very quick activities with the kids. And you just walk by, does it work? You check off your rubric and you're good to go. So these components can all be peeled off and used again. And we're going to show you the other method of connecting stuff, which is a little, if you're making something more permanent, you can try this way too. So we're going to grab some tape right here, and we're going to grab one of our boards. This is our board that works with microbit, with no microbit plugged into it. Now our holes here in all of our parts, it's copper on the top and the bottom, as well as on the inside of the ring there. So it's lots of copper all over the place. What you can do is you can run your tape down around in there and make a connection that way, making a little bit more permanent of a solution. I like the over-the-top method because it's super quick and easy, especially with kids. But if you have some, say, 8th grade on up who have a little more dexterity, a little more skills behind their tape usage, this is a really easy way of connecting this together. So you just would run this, say we're using pin 13 or whatever, whichever one you want to do, you can just run it through and then pull it up and over and press down. With all this stuff, is just pressing down, so you make sure you have a connection somewhere on there. And there you go, you have a nice little connection. It's good to go. Then run your tape off to wherever, or just sometimes leave a shorty, just do a short little amount here, cut it, and then I'll attach tape to that spot later, just breaking things out one by one. Again, this is a really easy method to break this out and connect to things. This as opposed to, say, having an Arduino, plugging a wire in, running it somewhere, adding tape on top. And if you do go that route, say you have a bunch of regular Arduinos and a bunch of jumper wires, you can then just run it to our tape really easily, because our tape is conductive on top and bottom. I've seen people do that. It works okay, not great, but in a pinch that does do the job. Now here's another example of a project we did quick and easy. This is a little piano, and this is a simple version. I'll show you a bigger version in a second. Oh, there we go. So, very simple, using one of our Crazy Circuits piezo speakers. The nice part about doing this with our Crazy Circuits bigger boards, you can bring in regular parts like our LEDs, or instead of having one of our Crazy Circuits piezo speakers, you just use a little standard one with 2 wire pins on there. They're cheaper, they're readily available if you have a bunch of electronic parts already. Same thing with, oh my gosh, I'm drawing blanks on other parts that we could use with this. Oh, like little sensors, like a light detecting sensor, transistors, Little speakers, always fun to use. People used to mostly use LEDs, but then your own buttons and switches you can make or use, again, just standard off-the-shelf components taped down. But you could say use this instead. And again, we're using just this very basic paper switch, which the kids then make themselves, or a bigger switch. I like being able to show them the difference, like, yeah, this may be a specialized part right here, but it's no different than this thing right here, which is pretty darn simple. A little super simple, super inexpensive little speaker. Thanks, Pete, for making these.
You can use a big speaker too.
Oh yes, Pete actually has like a big like speaker driver that just two little wires coming off the end, and we were playing with that earlier as an option. It just was very big on camera, but you can plug that in and say, look, it's big speakers, little speakers are all the same thing. And just really demystifying some of these electronic components. So kind of our go-to bigger project we did with this a while back is this version here, which is using one of our microbit board, but you can do this with any of our programmable boards. One of the nice parts about doing things on paper with like regular random parts, you can do really fun, weird stuff like this guy. This is, instead of a push to be on, this is a always on, and the individual pin here is triggered when you break the circuit. So these are clothespins, much like our wonderful clothespin battery tester here. Our maker tape being nice and strong, we can make a nice solid connection all around with this nylon tape to do this kind of project. And we did a little bit of a hybrid here between Lego and tape, where we're just putting our Lego here and then running it off to this paper environment. And again, being able to make really weird physical things like this are nice and eye-catching for kids, and there's also great kinesthetic. They're building their own switches and they're making their own components from scratch, as opposed to giving them pre-made push buttons or whatnot. Again, you could hook up a bigger speaker or whatnot to this, and that's pretty darned easy to do. But this is definitely much more engaging and much more lasting in their brains than, say, hooking up alligator clips to a bunch of push buttons or pre-made knife switches, because they can do all the work themselves. By the way, these are standard clothespins we got off Amazon. I'm sure Nasco sells some very nice clothespins, but they're just standard clothespins. Nasco Education, not just science supplies, probably clothespins also. I'm guessing they have everything. They're great. But very simple. It's just tape run down and around to the edge here, and we're connecting all the common grounds together. This is, by the way, an entire write-up on our website, both code and this, and we have write-ups on all the projects we show off. And then just running things up to here. It's a circuit board, but literally on a piece of cardboard we have here. So it's nothing fancy, nothing crazy. I think an LED is supposed to go over there.
That's so you can connect an external speaker instead.
Okay, we have like a little external speaker spot there for, I think, a video Pete made, a bigger speaker. Okay, so there should be something there, just we took that part off. But if I plug this guy in with the right code, because I don't have our microbit with the right code on it, it would then play, we can play music off of it. And I always find musical things to be quite fun for kids. Just make sure if you use the code, you set the volume low. Nothing like a room full of kids with little tiny noisemakers to drive you bonkers. Take it from me, I've been there before. And there's one more way of hooking up parts together as well. So this works with alligator clips. So one of the methods I like to do on occasion, if I'm feeling not super adventurous, is we'll have a project like this. We want to say connect a random component like our little piezo speaker right here. I can run a piece of tape out and around and over the edge, and then you can use an alligator clip to hook things together. And actually, this is a really good thing to do if you have like a standard microbit, just an off-the-shelf microbit, and you're trying to hook it up to things. It's a great way of connecting things to paper circuits and keeping things easy in your classroom. So I'm just going to put a bit of this tape, and this is, again, our nylon maker tape. It is a literal fabric tape, but you can't do this with copper foil. We just either we can run it off the edge and wrap around. Let's little clip this guy off right here. There we go. And then run it to my project. Then I can just alligator clip to this guy right here, and you're good. It's one of those little things like copper tape would pretty much break apart or flake off instantly, but this works really well. Then connecting it to, say, your microbit, which is what they're designed to do, have alligator clips clipped onto them. Or you can say clip it onto one of our crazy circuits components, like they're designed to be. And there you go. It's a very easy way of connecting things together. And also, I actually like to do this slightly differently too. I like to run mine off the edge a ways and then fold it back onto itself. So I have a very floppy end on there. This is overkill. I've really gone overboard with my floppiness. There we go. So that I have some flexibility, especially if it's a project I'm going to use multiple times. There's way less strain on there. We're doing a bunch of these, but then again, clipping it onto your Arduino or microbit or whatnot, and then running this off to your electronic components. Very simple way of doing that. So that's just a really easy way of connecting your electronic parts together from a programming environment to something super simple like paper circuits, which is great. I also like too with paper circuits that you can have the kids basically make a circuit on here and turn that in as their end of the classroom assignment. You know, a little Josh in the corner. My name is Josh, this is my project. I wire it all up. I can turn that in as my assignment. And it's just a nice way of not having to have the kids disassemble everything right away at the end of a class period. So if you're busy helping kids with stuff, because teachers always are, that you can then look at it later, evaluate, leave notes, mark on there physically, right? Like this LED is backwards, or you should try this, or whatever needs to be done can be done on the physical piece of paper, which is great feedback. Just get a couple colored markers or pens and write your notes on there. Oh, additionally, if you're doing like big nice switches like this, which is I always recommend this as a project, you can alligator clip from say here to there. When we did this as a project a while back, we just used an extra piece of tape on top of here, just another piece of tape out and around, so we could alligator clip to this as well. But yeah, running that tape off the edge of a piece of paper is a really, really simple way, and I cannot express how easy that is and how much easier it makes so many projects being able to just do things on paper. This would be like advanced paper circuits with programming, but it's really just basic microbit, basic Arduino, basic pre-made projects, but in a very, very, very hands-on, easy, simple, kid-friendly format where they can still use their own switches that they designed and used in other lesson plans that we put out, or their own projects, along with a microcontroller, which ups the cool factor. So Pete, are there any questions on that big old list? No questions.
Jordan does not let us know any questions yet.
Oh, Jordan, you should let us know if there are any questions, Jordan.
Yeah, don't worry, Josh. Yeah, if the questions come through, I'll definitely let you know. But yeah, just as a reminder, as Josh is going, if you have questions on any of these projects, or if you want any technical questions answered now, it's a good time to ask them.
And we've actually used this format again too. One of the things, some of the boards we have, our invention board, and also the new microbits that just came out a while ago, they have capacitive touch on them. So you can just run tape from that pin to a spot and you can just touch it, and it sees it as a button press, which is really cool because that's in fact the way that kids interact with their cell phones, their iPads, any touch-based device. It senses when your finger is touching an item. So having capacitive touch and like, oh yeah, I can break this spot out. Sometimes we'll do this with conductive paint at the end, a little glob of conductive paint or conductive dough from squishy circuits, which I know Nasco has as well. But this is just a nice way of breaking this out to a spot, touch, and you have a touch point. This board doesn't have that on there, but the new microbit does, as well as our invention board, which looks very similar to this. But just not an easy way to say break out those points without going overboard with paint or dough, or just keeping it simple and fun, and focusing on that lesson plan, that learning objective that you have for programming. So Pete, anything to add for this? Because you made these little guys.
Sure. Let's see. I have a little. There's just a little kind of what it would look like if we had the full piano.
Oh yeah, that'd be for the clothespin piano. That's the diagram where if we used a regular piezo speaker, the little like just standard off the shelf guy with here as opposed to our little ones, and then how you'd just wire it together, which again, it's not that hard. It's just a bunch of tape. And this is totally appropriate for that 6th, 7th, 8th grade crowd. Maybe you don't go with this many keys, but you could do say 2 or 3 of these, or do it over in more than one classroom, but it's totally doable. And when you're done, you can just take off your programmable board and save it for later. Or this is a great demo for a classroom, because something, a nice little piece of cardboard like this, I think this used to be an Amazon box. And then you can easily just have this as a nice demo of, look what our switch is. This clothespin is a switch. It can be a switch in a number of ways. So we always like to do that when we can bring in like weird versions of something to just kind of demystify it a bit. That's like the gigantic knife switch, which I love bringing out because it's cardboard, a couple of brass brads, and some of our maker tape. But you can buy maker tape a la carte at nascoeducation.com or one of our many kits we have. So we had a lot of questions recently. How do we add programming to paper circuits, which is why we thought it'd be kind of appropriate to bring this into view, because I know a lot of teachers are getting their kids back in the classroom again, doing hands-on activities, which they hadn't been able to do in the past, are kind of now something you want to get the kids going on, but again, keeping things in a very student-friendly format and very age-appropriate level format. Say even like 9th and 10th graders, this would be an easy thing for them to do, but it's so much less stressful than trying to think about circuit board design. It's cardboard and tape, but it's a circuit board. Hey, Pete, fun fact, the first circuit boards were literally done on a real breadboard.
Yeah, breadboarding was made on, pieces of wood with nails and wires. Yeah, breadboarding.
Literally using a breadboard, like a cutting board or whatnot from a kitchen, and just putting nails and wires on a breadboard. It's one of those weird, like, where did this term come from? People using pieces of wood they had to make circuit on there. But we can do the same kind of thing on cardboard, much less destructive.
Josh, one time I had students, actually, a small workshop, we have do that with pieces of scrap wood and nails and wrap wires around with batteries and LEDs. It was, fun.
It's fun. And so the things, you can do that. You can use nails and wires to wrap things around, or you could use tape on cardboard and save yourself a lot of effort.
Yes.
Okay, things that work well and things that work well in the classroom are sometimes two different things. So on that fun note, that's, and if somebody has any questions, that's kind of our fun thing of how you use conductive tape or maker tape specifically with Arduinos and other programmable devices to do paper circuits on a much higher level. And these are some guides we're just actually posting today on this because it's been a request we've had lately. But in general, it's pretty straightforward once you know that there's a couple ways of doing it. And the tape works super, super, super well.
Josh,
So,
can I add something?
oh, Pete's gonna add one more thing.
What I would say is that while we're doing it on paper here in like a 2D form, you could take an old cardboard box and run your tape around different sides, make different switches, put LEDs on the sides of the box, kind of make a three-dimensional thing.
The old, basically you wire up a shoebox home.
Yeah.
If you want to use a microcontroller. I recommend it to a lot of teachers. If you're going to wire up a home, which is a legitimate thing to be doing with kids, like how's your home wired up in 3 dimensions? Because circuits don't have to be flat. They can be 3-dimensional objects. But using like a microcontroller to say turn things on and off or do lighting effects with it, easy to do. Adding a doorbell sound effect makes everybody smile with the piezo speaker. Press a little tiny paper button, ding dong. You'd be surprised how many smiles that brings because it's so silly and pointless, but it's fun. But yeah, doing that in a 3-dimensional shape. I don't think they can hear your sound effects. I can hear the sound effects. Nobody else can. That's an easy way of doing it. Then same with lights and other effects. It's really, really simple to do, even just without a microcontroller involved, doing a 3-dimensional shoebox thing. I know here in Milwaukee, MATC downtown. Back when I was a teacher, I took my kids to MATC, the area technical college. They literally had this big, gigantic warehouse room with a empty frame of a home in it, just like a home designed so that students could come in and electrical students could come in and actually wire up a room, just the studs on a wall, no drywall, just, they could wire it up. We can do the same thing, but with a cardboard box and tape without going to the trouble of, having a frame of a home around. But it's a really nice way of connecting what the kids can't see but use every day to something that they can physically make themselves and control and see, okay, how difficult is it? How easy is it? How do these things come together? But also very inexpensive too, because cardboard boxes are literally free. Grocery store is my favorite place for cardboard boxes. So perfect indeed. Well, on that note, we're gonna end things unless Jordan wants to add anything into this wonderful mix. Jordan?
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, I was just getting all the different links for the different packs that you have in the chat box, just in case they're interested in some of the different crazy circuits or the crazy circuits programming materials as well, which you would have there with the boards. I did want to mention that as a follow-up, there will be a webinar or a follow-up email from there. This webinar that is being recorded, that's where you'll get your certificate for participation. They'll get a recording of this session. So if you want to review some of this project again for different details, etc., we always love your feedback as well to help us. If you are interested in some different projects or things you want to kind of view. Lastly, not least, my name is Jordan Nelson. I didn't introduce myself, but I'm the Customer Engagement Manager with Nasco. I was your host today, and then I wanted to give a shout out to all your educators that are still making it happen for students. Thank you so much. If you have any other questions, I do see some coming through. If you do want to Oh, I do have a question from Laura, someone that came in a little late, so a bit confused. Are you going to actually show how it works? Yes. So Josh is just demonstrating right now the little touch piano here. What he has is some conductive tape, and then he's just simply connecting the circuit with the board, and then it's turning on the different LEDs. And then he also demonstrated a little piano as well that has a little um, sound to it. I don't know if you want to show that real quick too, Josh, or on the
Sure,
side there.
it's the same thing, just the speaker on it. That's what this guy is. I mean, Pete, could you throw one to, we have a bigger one too, actually. Here's a bigger one we use clothespins on as switches, where you could press the clothespin and it would activate the sound effect. The lady who came in late, Laura, we're showing how to use conductive tape to connect microcontrollers like a microbit or an Arduino into a paper circuits environment to make a very simple like project area, basically taking something complex and turning into and connect to a very simple area. Advanced paper circuits, if you will. But that's what we're doing. Actually, Jordan, and for anybody else who's listening, I'm like 2/3 of the way with doing a write-up on this. So like a little guide of like all these different examples I showed you. I have it written, just I'm taking photos at the moment. And I'll have that sent to Jordan here shortly, so you can include the link so you can see the visual representation of the couple different ways I showed how to connect things to this with our really awesome nylon conductive maker tape.
Yeah.
Trademarked. And it's, Jordan, you said there are a couple other, yeah, we trademark that because that's what we love doing. You said there are a couple other questions, Jordan?
Well, I'm also uploading in the handouts to the clothespin piano documents that you had online. I figured that'd be a good one for them to be able to have. If you go on the webinar control panel on the right-hand side, you'll see there's a clothespin piano document I just uploaded. Other different questions, I think it was kind of more or less where can we buy these kits, and then different supplies for the packages.
Sure.
I don't know if
So
you have one of those little containers handy just to kind of show them.
not one of those
You're
containers. I
probably
feel like
not.
every
You're
other
not in reaching
container
distance.
possible to the side here. So our maker, our crazy circuits kits, which are again Lego compatible. That's what we do. That's what we focus on. But using with paper is a really easy way of bringing in other parts you might already have. So we have a bunch of different formats that Nasco carries. Some of them with and without programmable boards in them. We even have classroom sets with curriculum attached. But Nasco, it's a wide variety of things, anywhere from $50 up to thousands of dollars for big classroom sets full of stuff. Nice little plastic organizer as well. If you just look at crazy circuits on Nasco, we use the same plastic organizer for all of them, different stickers. But it's a full format of these guys. They all connect together. All of our parts are custom that we make and design. But the paper circuits connection, because people always ask, I've got these other LEDs or parts around. What do I do with this? Well, you can easily connect them there to each other. Is that you, Pete, taking screenshots?
Yeah, I was gonna show.
Okay. He's taking screenshots. I can hear like the sound effects from his computer. He's taking a couple screenshots to throw up there, but instead of using our crazy circuits parts, which would be like these guys here. Oh, there's a kit. That's from Nasco's website. It'd be one of our larger kits. But yeah, there's a wide variety of stuff. And if you want to just get individual components, like just a robotics board, talk to Jordan. Those are things we can definitely work with and get you just individual parts as well for classroom sets. If you want to say, hey, I just want to do regular components with a programmable board, there you go. Or that makes it really easy if you have, especially have tons of LEDs and other parts already. Also, our wonderful nylon conductive maker tape. Don't go for copper foil; it's the worst. But it's nice and strong. It does make that connection on top and bottom. It really is. Our design just works really well for that. Much like a bratwurst, these are the worst. The copper foil is the worst. That horrible Wisconsin joke. Sorry, I have very few Wisconsin jokes. Like,
Oh yes.
I'm in Wisconsin, it's the worst. But no, it's a very simple format. I see so many teachers wanting to do like simple programming, and just it's sometimes hard to go from the different boards that are out there, just the raw ones you'll find on Amazon or wherever, and a lot of kits. But this makes it so much easier to do this as compared to just the raw ones. And the maker tape makes it really easy to then build up your circuits with this and just press and go. And when you're done, just peel it all off and let the next group use it. You're not going to harm anything. I think Pete might have actually taped this one down with a piece of double-sided tape on the back side. Oh, that's one of the bigger kits. I can see, oh, yep, that's one of our bigger kits that comes with servos. That's a robotics kit. Comes with a couple of servos, 4 servos. Actually, we have newer servos in there in that photo. We actually upgraded servos in all the kits a while back. So Nasco probably has the updated ones too, but
yeah, I did put that in the link too as well. just recently. So
And two, if you want to like bring in like servos, we decided not to do any things with servos on this one because it's not that interesting. We just plug a servo into this, and then you can press this guy to make the servo turn or move or whatnot. Those things are always really funny. They can have like a visual kinesthetic feedback for the kids, and servos are fun because they're super simple. They make a fun noise, sound, and you can have them do things. And it's very simple programming, especially with something like a microbit. They're just very simple to use with that. So yeah, if you have any questions on specific kids, Dr. Jordan, I'm sure I can always happy to chime in on my recommendations of things and things we've worked with teachers on for lessons and activities. We have lesson plans galore on this and activities. All this stuff has been overly well documented. I mean, we do tons and tons of projects all the time, and the bringing in paper circuits with this stuff is something we just kind of getting requests for, so we've been putting a little bit more of that out on our website and just documenting and playing around with, just because clearly people like it.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys again for joining us. I don't see any more questions here, and I don't want to go too much over our time because I know everybody's busy. But like I said, if you have any questions about this webinar, specifically about the things that we're using, reach out to us at engage@nascoeducation.com, and we'd be more than willing to help you out. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. You guys have a great rest of your day. Stay tuned for next week if you want to learn some more different STEM activities. Have a great one, everybody.